excellent.
So how is your 2025 going so far? The month is almost behind us, and you've probably already, just in the few short weeks of this year, you've experienced probably wins and losses. There's also a high probability that you've already done what we're going to talk about today. Today's topic, I believe, is one of the biggest factors in regard to failure, and it can impact you this year if you don't learn how to conquer it. Today, we're talking about comparison. We've all heard the phrase that comparison is the thief of joy. But I would argue that it's really the thief of a whole lot more than that. It's your goals, it's your dreams, your purpose. So really, regardless if you're an entrepreneur or an employee, a student, or just anyone trying to make progress in life, falling into the comparison trap will rob you of so much in this life. So today, I'm going to unpack why comparison is so dangerous, how it sneaks into our lives, how it just shows up unannounced. And then I want to give you 3 practical tips to stop comparing yourself to other people so that you can be successful this year. So welcome to the Mind Your Business podcast, the podcast for whatever business is on your mind. Let's get started.
Well, that's excellent.
Well, thank you for joining me for another episode of the Mind Your Business podcast. Hey, if this brings value to your life, will you do me a favor? Will you like, subscribe, share this with others? Hey, it would also be amazing if you would leave a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. As always, this helps to add as much value to as many people as possible. Let me let you in on just a little secret. Everyone struggles with comparison. There, I said it. Everyone struggles with comparison. That's right. The people that you're comparing yourself to, they also struggle with comparison. I have struggled with comparison. See, early in my life, I used to look at other leaders and I would think, wow, they're doing so much better than I am. What's wrong with me? Maybe I'm just not good enough. I'll never be able to lead like they do. I'll never be successful like they are. I'll never influence as many people as they're influencing. But here's what I realized. I was trying to measure my chapter 1 against someone else's chapter 20. I was comparing my behind the scenes work to their highlight reel. And the more I focused on what they were doing, the less time and energy I had to focus on what I was doing. It really wasn't until I learned how to kill the comparison in my life that I stopped worrying about what others were doing. And when I stopped worrying about what others were doing, I could focus on being the best at what I was doing. And that's what I want for you this year as we move into 2025. Now, quickly, before I give you the tools to overcome comparison, because that's what we're going to do today, I want to first help you understand why this is so dangerous in your life. So I want to give you a few ways that this impacts your life, the comparison trap, and stick around. I'm going to give you some ways to overcome that. But the first thing I would tell you is that comparison clouds your vision. Yeah, comparison just clouds your vision. Comparison causes you to follow directions to someone else's destination. So think about it. You have a destination that you want to arrive, but you'll never get to where you want to go when you're following someone else's direction. It causes you to shift your attention from what you've set out to accomplish to what other people are doing. Comparison will rob you. You then begin to doubt your own pace of progress. You're wondering if you're too slow, if you're never going to get there, or if you're just not good enough. The second thing that comparison will do is it crushes your creativity. It crushes your creativity. See, when you're too busy trying to match someone else, you ignore the original ideas and gifts that you have for yourself. The suppression of your gifts and your abilities prevents you from creating. It prevents you from offering something new that only could come from your creativity. When you copy someone else, you rob yourself of your very own thoughts, of your very own vision, of your very own ability to create something that could come specifically from you. The third thing I would tell you is that it burns you out. Comparison, looking at everyone else will burn you out. The constant effort that it takes to keep up with other people, whether it's their success or their lifestyle or their timeline of things, it just creates this emotional and mental weight that just becomes exhausting. So instead of working from a place of passion and purpose, you're driven by external pressure. And that leaves you depleted every time. If it's not coming from purpose and with passion from within, and you're driven by the external pressures to keep up with what you're comparing yourself to, it will burn you out. And I want you to understand, burnout isn't just physical. It destroys your motivation, it destroys your creativity, and ultimately it destroys your sense of self. It can really mess you up. You can lose any thought of, I can do this, or I've got something to add, or I've got something to give. It'll make you self-conscious. It will destroy your drive. So I really hope that just giving you 3 easy things can help you see how dangerous comparison can actually be. Because in our culture today, I think we've embraced it as normal. It's just commonplace for us to look at other people across social media platforms, across all the things that we see and the way that we're connected in our world, and we think, wow, I'm never as good as the other people that I am seeing. Comparison is so dangerous. But the question is, how do we stop? Because you can't just decide to stop comparing. You can't just go, oh, just going to stop that today. It takes intentional effort. So I want to give you 3 practical tips that you can start using today that will help you to overcome comparison. And the first thing I would tell you is stay in your lane. Maybe you've heard that statement before. Maybe you've used that statement before, but stay in your lane. Here's an important truth. You can admire someone else's success without questioning your own. I think that's so freeing to understand. You can look at other people and you can see what they're doing and you can admire the success that they're having without questioning your own. You just have to understand that their journey is their own and they are responsible for the journey that they are on. Your journey is yours, and that's all that you are responsible for. Doesn't that free you today to think about they're responsible for themselves and whatever happens in their lane belongs to them, but you are only responsible for yourself. You just have to stay in your lane. So when you feel comparison just creeping in, ask yourself, what's my next step? Not theirs, yours. So when you're looking at everyone else and you're feeling less than, what's your next step? Don't look at what they did. Don't look at how they got there. I mean, you can learn, but comparison, if it's paralyzing you, if it's causing you to feel deflated, if it's causing you to feel like you can't press forward, what is your next step? Not theirs. So set goals that are based on your values and your priorities, not someone else's highlight reel of all the things that you're seeing play out in their life. You're not trying to replicate their success. You're trying to create your own. And I think that's a trap that many people find themselves in. Many of us are trying to replicate the success of others instead of trying to create the success that you were meant to create on your own. So for example, let's think about Jeff Bezos. He started Amazon in a garage. Now, sitting in that garage and selling books that he was doing at the time, do you think he compared himself to Barnes and Noble on day one? Probably not. He just had to stay in his own lane and he had to take the right next step each and every day. Growth is being a little better today than I was yesterday. Look where that got him today. If you spend every day comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, you will never finish your book. So if you find yourself sitting in that garage, the proverbial garage, just like Jeff Bezos, trying to sell books online, don't compare yourself to Books A Million. Don't compare yourself to Barnes and Noble. You're in chapter 1. Stop comparing to someone else's chapter 20 because you'll never finish writing the book that you're supposed to be writing with your life. And I think it's important to mention again that in order to stay in your lane, you have to know what that lane is. Your lane of success has to be clearly defined. And if you missed our last episode, I encourage you to go back and either watch or listen to it as we talked about how to define what success really is. I also included a free resource for you to download that I think will be a big help, and I've included it here in the show notes as well. See, once you define your success, like we talked about in our last episode, You have success for yourself. Someone else's achievements won't feel threatening because they're not traveling in the same lane that you are, because you know what your success is supposed to be. That means there's no need for comparison in your life. The second thing I would tell you is this. In order to stop comparing, stay off social media. I know that's counterintuitive. That feels countercultural, but stay off of social media. Now, I get it. Totally eliminating social media maybe, could be, possibly just a little extreme, or it may not. The question to ask yourself is this: if social media makes you feel better or worse, so ask yourself, does social media make me feel better or worse about myself? And if you find yourself constantly comparing yourself to those that you follow and those that you're watching online, and you're comparing yourself and it leaves you feeling inadequate, maybe you should consider just unplugging for a little while. I can remember seasons of my life where I would be excited about the wins that I was experiencing. I would either be really proud or really excited about something that I'd worked really hard for, and it finally came to pass. Unfortunately, it would be short-lived simply because I would start scrolling through social media. Then I would scroll through highlight after highlight of what others in my very own space were celebrating, and suddenly my win just felt like a loss, and my advancement felt like a decline. How sad is it that we'll allow someone else's advancements, or we'll allow something so trivial to steal the enjoyment of our own success, something we've worked hard for, something that we put in the time and the effort to achieve, yet we've let someone else's highlight reel destroy the enjoyment of our success. We don't even know the people that we're comparing ourselves to. So why are we letting something so insignificant rob us of the celebration of your success? I had seasons where I would just totally unplug from social media, and then seasons that I would just unfollow accounts that made me compare myself. Now, it's not their fault. They're not to blame. I am excited about their success, and we want everyone to succeed. I believe I'm better when you're better, and I believe you're better when I'm better. But there are times when you're just in this comparison trap and it's unhealthy, so you have to unplug. You have to unfollow some people if they're making you feel less than your best. So if the world of social media is causing you to constantly compare, just unplug. And remember, you control what you consume. So if you're allowing these things into your life and they're controlling you and they're making you question yourself and you're comparing constantly, just unplug. Control what you consume. And then number 3, compare yourself to your past self. If you're going to compare yourself to your past self. The only person that you should compare yourself to is the person that you were yesterday. It's not fair to measure your growth against the growth of others. We can all remember being in school, having summer break, and then coming back to see a friend who had grown like 5 feet over summer. Can you remember that? It just happened all of a sudden, and life is the same way. Our progress shows up at different times. It happens differently for us all. There are some circumstances, there are some situations that you can't control. So if you feel like you're lost over summer coming back and everyone else has grown 5 feet and you're still sitting where you were at the start of summer, just take a deep breath. It just happens. Your progress is coming. It may just show up at a different time. So ask yourself this question: am I growing? So take time and just ask yourself that simple question. Don't think about the growth of others. Don't compare. You go, well, I think so, but everyone else. No. Am I growing? Am I improving? And if the answer is yes, you're winning. Simply, if you're growing and if you're improving, if you can say yes to that, it is a win. In my book, a win is a win, and every win needs to be celebrated. Don't overlook even the smallest amount of progress. And if you're comparing yourself to everyone else, you will rob yourself of the progress that you've made. Think about it. Maybe you're trying to get healthier this year. Don't compare yourself to a fitness influencer. If you're trying to start getting healthier, don't compare yourself to the influencer who's online. Compare yourself to who you were last month. Maybe you couldn't run a mile before, but now that you can. Maybe you started making healthier food choices. Maybe you've lost a few pounds or you've lost a few inches. Progress is progress, no matter how big or how small. But if you're comparing yourself to the fitness influencer, you will never notice your own progress because you'll never get to where they are. Remember, you're chapter 1 to their chapter 20. But when you're only comparing yourself to yourself, you'll see each and every win. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode. Your journey is unique. Your purpose, it's unique. You don't have to compare yourself to everyone else because there is no one else like you. I am a firm believer, I truly believe, that we're all on the planet with a God-given purpose, that we have something to accomplish, that we have something that only you can contribute to the world that is around you, and that's what I want you to be able to live out. Imagine if Steve Jobs had compared himself to IBM during his initial failures of the Apple Lisa or the Macintosh or even his company Next. If you know anything about his journey, just imagine had he quit because he thought he would never measure up. The world as we know it would be a much different place. But he didn't compare. He knew what he was purposed to do, and he set out to do it regardless. And the same goes for you. The world needs what you have to offer. So don't give up because someone else looks like they're ahead of you. Run your race. Stay in your lane. Keep showing up. And then trust that your purpose is worth pursuing. Hey, if you got value from today's episode, do me a favor. I want you to share this with a friend, somebody that you think needs to hear this message, that needs to be encouraged. And then don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a review. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. How do you avoid falling into the comparison trap? Let me know in the comments or at any of my social media platforms because I would love to learn from you as well. And thanks for tuning in to the Mind Your Business podcast. Until next time, go live life on purpose and mind your business. I'll see you next time.